I might have done that. There we go. All right. So, hi, everybody. I'm Mev. Welcome this afternoon. We have quite a wonderful panel set up for you this afternoon on what are we forgetting? And it seems like we're all forgetting things, and that's kind of the way it goes. So, my name is Mev. I'm on the Zoom crew, and I'll be facilitating us this afternoon along with JR and Deirdre, who are going to be handling the tech. And then later on, Janet will be answering, facilitating the question and answer period. Just before we get started, just a few technical things. We're going to ask that you all please stay muted so that we don't have a lot of background noises and dogs barking and garbage trucks and so on and so forth, so that we can actually really hear our presenters and each other. So we're going to ask you to stay muted. If you need closed captioning, if you go down to the bottom where you see the CC live transcript, you can go down there and on the right, take your little mouse and put over it, and you'll see a parent that says show subtitles. Or if you don't want to see the subtitles, just put hide subtitles. And so if you don't want to see the closed captioning, you can choose to turn it off. What else? Oh, if you have questions as we're moving through, we're going to have the presenters talk first and tell their experiences. But if you have questions along the way, you can put them down in the chat or just remember them. And at the end, we will have a question and answer period. Because there are so many people on the call, we may not physically be able to see you if you raise your hand. So we will ask you to use your electronic hand, which is down on the bottom where it says reactions, and you'll see a button there that says raise hand. We'll remind you of that when it comes time for that part of our afternoon. But please put questions that you have in the chat as we move along. One of our presenters, Shar Brown from IDEA, was not able to join us today for personal health reasons. But as it happens, our presenters all have had experience with IDEA, so they will be able to tell us a little bit about that experience and what that all involves. So we've got that covered, which is pretty cool. The only other thing is, for those of you who have joined us late, I'm going to ask you please to rename yourself to make sure that you have your first name, your year of birth, and the city where you're located, or the state, whichever. Just so that you know, this helps me on the other end when I'm checking in at the end to see who actually attended. Then I don't have to guess who you are. So that helps me on the other end of this whole process. Long explanation about that none of you need to have. Just please make sure that your name and your birth and state is in there to help us out later on. Okay, so we're going to get started now. I am really feeling very privileged by the presenters that we have today. I'm going to introduce them right before they speak. So I'll introduce who's going to speak first, and then I will introduce Elda and Mary Ellen. So Lisa, I've known for a long time. We used to live in Minneapolis together about 20 years ago or so. So I knew Lisa for the many years that I lived in Minnesota. She's currently living in a senior cooperative and has vascular dementia and is experiencing memory loss. Her partner, who she's been with for 25 years, her partner, Pat, currently lives in Alzheimer's memory care. She's had Alzheimer's for several years now. And one of the notes that Lisa said to me was to say she no longer speaks or gets out of bed, but when I visit, she smiles at me, which is really wonderful. She also co-facilitates caregivers groups for LGBT people with memory loss, and she's part of the Aging with Pride IDEA project. So without me blabbing any more about her, I want to say welcome, Lisa. I'm going to, you can unmute yourself, and you will be spotlighted.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go. Whether you can see me or hear me, as long as you can hear me, that's what I think matters. First of all, it's a great honor to be here. I'm seeing the names of a lot of different dykes who are online, and I recognize some of your names because, like, I saw Carol CJ's name, Feminist Bookstore Newsletter, Carla J. I know some of your writing. I have a website with some of my writing. I'll put it in the chat box if anybody wants to look me up. I am 71. I say I'm 71 years young. I have vascular dementia. What that means is I have some memory loss. It often happens because you like hit your head or something like that. And my vascular dementia is not connected to me having had an accident. It's genetic. So I take copious notes on everything to try to remember. In fact, I was a little late for this call because on my website, I'm working on a blog. And today is the anniversary of the murder of Mr. George Floyd. And it happened 3 blocks from where I used to live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So it's in Minnesota, a lot of the uprisings that started after the police file, a lot of it started here. And, you know, I might go to one of the memorials this weekend. So I have vascular dementia. If I repeat myself, I often tell people, just say, you already said that. So if I've already said it, Mev, tell me, okay? And I know Mev because I used to order my books when I was a professor at the university from Amazon Bookstore, the real Amazon, as opposed to the online Amazon. So my partner, I still call her my partner of 25 years. Her name is Pat, and she was diagnosed over 12 years ago with Alzheimer's. And I was still working, and we were living together, and it was pretty hard to be a caregiver and to work full time. I managed as best as I could. And, you know, over a decade ago, it was really hard to find resources on anything to do with Alzheimer's or memory loss. And especially if you were a dyke, to know where can I get accurate information? Where am I not going to be treated like there's something wrong with me because I'm a dyke? And I've been lucky. I had a good social worker, and Pat lives in a wonderful facility. It's got 5 bedrooms and there are 5 women, and it's about 10 minutes from where I live. So I go maybe once a week, once every other week. And when I go into, she doesn't get out of bed, she doesn't speak anymore, but when I see her, she smiles at me. So that tells me that underneath that veil of Alzheimer's, she has some presence. So if people say, oh, I'm so sorry for you, you know, we get dealt a lot of cards in our lives. I don't want anybody to feel sorry for me ever. You know, I'm doing the best I can. I'm in this program that it was going to be somebody on the call with us. It's called Age. I'm going to read the name of it. Aging with Pride, Innovations in Dementia, Empowerment, and Action. And I have a once a week phone call with my coach, who's a social worker. And I have a partner here in the building, one of my neighbors. And this book here has a whole bunch of different exercises, warm-ups and cool downs. And, you know, the theory is it will help me with my memory. And I'm hoping it does. You know, I can't really tell. And, you know, the kind of protocol in this place where I live, it's called Beckettwood. You know, people don't just go into each other's apartments. Minnesota is known for what's called Minnesota nice, which I've never been Minnesota nice. The people of color in my life call it Minnesota ice, just so you know. You know, I'm pretty direct about everything because I'm a New York Jew, and people who are from New York know what that is. So it's a challenge here living a little bit, and I've had to try to educate people on Jewish stuff because they like to schedule stuff on Jewish holidays here. And suddenly I'm like the maven of Jewish stuff. And, you know, I don't read Hebrew. I wasn't bat mitzvahed, but I'm doing the best I can. As a former professor, a lot of my work is kind of always educating people whatever it is. So, you know, mostly there are straight people living here, and all the queer people are coupled. And I like to say they're attached at the hip. So like I have neighbors across the hall from me who are lovely people, but I swear they throw out the garbage together. They don't do anything separate. So that's a challenge for me because I am single. And as I've said on many occasions, find me a nice elder. I don't say elderly because I think elderly implies you're not in such good shape. I'd like to say elder. Find me an elder woman who is in my age category and doesn't have a lot of drama in her life. and I'd love to go out on a date. So put that in the chat box, especially if you live near me in Minneapolis. I did have a blind date a couple of weeks ago. It just didn't work out. I'll say that. I won't go into more detail. I'm trying. What else can I tell you? It's hard with my partner because she doesn't remember a lot. But, you know, it doesn't matter. When she smiles, that says to me, she knows me in some way. You know, I don't need her to know all the details of our life together. I mean, we lived together for 25 years. I mean, all that stuff. You know, she has good health. She has not lost a lot of weight. She's in bed all the time. They occasionally sit her up in a Hoyer lift. That's what people use if you can't get out of bed. And, you know, unfortunately, and I'll tell you this because it is kind of sad, they have really good staff there and they don't have a lot of staff turnover. But last week, there was a couple, a man and a woman, who were weekend staff, and they were stealing from the residents. So, I mean, I don't know what's lower than stealing from people who have Alzheimer's. You know, I mean, Pat didn't have anything to steal, so it wasn't about they were stealing from her, but just the idea that people who, and they were really nice people. I mean, you know, the guy was a great cook and they cook meals there. It's just heartbreaking when people who are helping vulnerable people, you know, steal from them. So that was hard to hear.
So one of the questions that we had put in to talk about, if you could address this just a little bit, is could you say a little bit about what kind of support you find the most helpful from lesbian community or from anybody in particular, but specifically lesbians? What is it that, given the experiences that you're having, what do you find to be the most supportive for you?
Well, you know, I have a lot of lesbian friends in Minneapolis. They don't live here. You know, we check in with each other. Mostly it's on the phone, given the pandemic. On occasion, we see each other. You know, I know they understand my life. Many of them knew Pat and I as a couple. So they'll say, how's Pat? And it's not just, oh yeah, how is she? It's like they knew her. I also have friends who don't talk to her anymore. And I, at first, was really angry at them. But one of them once said to me, it's really hard being around her because she's not who she used to be. And I understand that in some ways. There's a book about memory loss, and I can't remember what the phrase is. It's about, she's there, but she's not there. There's a phrase for it. Somebody might know on the call. You'll say what it is. I mean, I see her, she sees me, but she's not there, but she is there. So, you know, and if you're a lesbian, you got to understand something about our lives. I mean, we never married. That wasn't an option back then. And, you know, Pat was married to a man years ago. And when she was present, she wasn't interested in getting married. Neither of us felt like we needed the state to recognize us. So, you know, it's a challenge. I am her power of attorney. And even though I have memory loss, I have to manage all of her money all the time. That's a little hard for me with memory loss, but I have people who help me. So I'm not doing it on my own. And I have people I trust. Some of them are dykes, you know, some of them are straight people, it doesn't matter. But I trust them to give me feedback on money and am I paying all the bills right? You know, I mean, that's a really big responsibility. Her kids, I only met Pat's kids as an adult, so I did not raise them. And, you know, when one of them briefly moved in with me to get back on his feet, and he lived in my basement in a house I lived in, you know, and Pat said, Chris, move home, you can move in with Lisa. And then she told me after the fact. And he lived in my basement for a year. And, you know, he's still in my life. He married the woman he was dating back then, and they have kids. In fact, you know, I had my mother's engagement ring and, you know, I wasn't going to sell that. So I gave it to Chris, and Margaret wears it on her, you know, she wears my mother's ring, and, you know, I'm happy for that. But I often wonder if I'm going to need more care, will those kids care for me? And I don't have an answer. I wondered, gee, if we were in a heterosexual marriage and I got Alzheimer's, would those kids take care of me? I don't know. And I think about that because I am alone. And I would hope that they would care for me, but I don't have the answer. And I don't know if that's because we were a dyke couple. I mean, I honestly don't know. But I worry about it because if I get sick, I don't have anybody. You know, I live in the senior co-op. So if people get sick here, somebody falls and breaks their leg, we're affiliated with a place called Episcopal Homes. And I would get moved there to get cared for. You know, and I wouldn't have control over my life. And, you know, I want to have control over my time on this planet as best as I can. So I don't know. And I worry about that because of my memory. I mean, I'm trying to write a memoir now, and I worry I'm going to forget more of my story. And you know, my story is about being a white person who's worked for racial justice and fought homophobia and done a ton of shit all my life. And, you know, I don't have a publisher and I would love to get that in print, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So, you know, with my own memory loss, I worry, you know, and I know Pat is safe. And I worry kind of in some ways less about her because she's in a safe place. She's been vaccinated, she eats. You know, I just think about if I have an accident, you know, I have my best friends who have powers of attorney for me live in New York City. And, you know, I speak to them now and then, but I'm not getting on planes and going anywhere. So I worry about me a lot. What happens if my memory goes? What happens if I fall? I'm still driving. I drive locally. If I have to go farther than 2 or 3 miles, I ask for rides. And I've learned that asking for help is a good thing. I don't think of myself as weak when I ask for help. And I think I used to think that, oh, I can do this all myself. But I think as you get older, you learn you can't do everything yourself anymore. And that's a challenge that I struggle with. And that's hard because, you know, I was talking to my therapist about this. You know, I can't take care of every detail in my life like I used to. You know, so there's a lot of things that's scary about memory loss for me. So I'm going to stop because I know there's other people that have to talk and ask questions later. I'll be on. I'm going to mute myself. I have a cat nearby and I don't want him to meow at everybody. So you want to put me on mute, Mev? Or should I?
We can do that, sure.
Okay, so I'm here and we can talk later, people.
Okay.
I'm going to put in the chat box what my website is too, so if people want to look up some of my stuff. So anyway, go ahead, take it away.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to take the spotlight off of Lisa. I am Mev here. So I would like now to introduce Elda and Mary Ellen, whom I know because they are members of the Rhode Island chapter of OLOC. And I met them both through our chapter originally. And we have mutual friends of friends. And I'm very happy and privileged to have them both in my life. They live in a county, you know, in Rhode Island, it's a big joke, you know, they probably live on the other side of the world. They only live like 35 minutes away, but anyway, they've lived, I don't know how long, you all have been together for a long time, as I recall. Mariellen has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's back in 2017, and they've been study participants in several different drug trials, which I'm sure they will talk to you more about. They are both writers, and Mariellen is also a very fine gardener and also an illustrator. And Elda has done a lot of work working with children and adults who have been victimized by childhood sexual abuse. So they have very long stories and professions and kids and lots of exciting things in their lives. So I'm going to turn it over to Elda and Mariellen to tell more about their story and their experiences.
Well, hi, and thank you very much for inviting us.
Yes.
We are privileged to be part of this. Mariellen, you want to
Want to start?
Yeah.
All right. I'm not sure what will come out of my mouth, so.
Me neither.
But as you were talking, I was thinking, I was remembering that in grade school and probably even higher, I was this kid that got straight A's, always knew everything, knew the answers, And so to be losing my memory and especially to be losing my memory of people I love, is pretty horrifying to me. I've been lucky, knock on wood. I haven't progressed a lot in the last, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Some, and some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short-term memory is now a thing of the past.
Who are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the short-term memory, because up until pretty recently, I had memory loss and memory problems, but it wasn't anything real consistent.
No.
And so now, the short-term memory, I'll start to say something and then it's gone.
Yeah.
Or I'll walk in the other room to get something and look around thinking maybe I'll see what I wanted. But,
No,
and it also drives Elda crazy.
it does a little bit. Yeah. We both have a great sense of humor. We both do, and we use it a lot. We need it. We had gone to, short story here, but we had gone to P-Town way back when we first got diagnosed in the very beginning. And we were listening to Vicky Shaw, and some of you obviously will know who Vicky Shaw is. And she was doing a comedy act in P-Town about her father and who had Alzheimer's. And she went to take care of him for a couple of weeks because her mother was exhausted from the repetition. And because the father was always saying to the mother, to his wife, did the mail come? Did the mail come? And it was driving his wife a little crazy. And then when Vicky got there, every time he said, did the mail come? Her response was, I don't know, Dad, go check. And so he spent the entire week going back and forth down the driveway and lost 12 pounds. So, we use that, as kind of a thermometer about how close we are to that stage of Alzheimer's. And more recently, we've been at the did the mail come stage.
I think we're just approaching
Yeah. Did the mail come stage. So we can use it as, we use our humor to save our lives, basically.
Yeah.
It's dreadful. It's dreadful to watch someone that you know and love deeply not be able to remember and not to be able to be the person that they want to be and were, and Mariellen still has spirit. She's got spunk, she's got humor, she's got all those things. And we know that that's not going to last forever. She's been in a study here, a national study on, the drug everybody talks about, Aduhelm or aducanumab, whatever. And right from the beginning, she was on it, even though it was a blind study in the beginning. But what's happened over time is that she's developed fluid buildup on the brain, so that the amyloid is breaking down with the drug, but it's not reabsorbing. So 3 times.
So I have a head full of amyloid.
You do.
Sloshing around.
Slush. And it wouldn't absorb quick enough. So they have had experience with people on the drug who've had that, getting strokes or getting aneurysms or getting
Or dying.
or dead. So she's off of that. And, we have, you're right, you got to have humor about amyloid. You absolutely do. I mean, somebody just put in the chat, if you, it's hard, it's just hard. And I know that Mariellen has always been the person who's held up more than half of her sky and everybody else's. We've been together 33 years. We've had, Mariellen was married before and had 3 kids. And each of those kids has 2 kids. So we have 6 grandkids. And I'm lucky, I didn't have to raise any kids, and I got 6 grandkids, and they're wonderful. They're, the kids and the grandkids have helped us enormously. There's a level in which they get it. And I think with helping us move from our home that we've been in for 30 some years into now senior independent living, I think they get it a little more because they've been around long enough to hear the repetition and those kind of things. But they've been nothing but helpful and supportive. And our grandkids, and it was actually one of our grandsons responsible for, making us move to a place where we started to do something about it, because I could tell Mariellen that her memory was failing, but the response that I always get was, "So's yours," which is true. I mean, we're both in our late 70s.
I'm just doing it faster.
You're doing it faster. And the thing that happened after that was I was driving our grandson to school one day. He was probably 12. And he said to me, "Nana," he said, is everything okay with Grandma?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he told me. And I said, "Well, she does have some trouble with her memory, but she's okay." She said, "Okay. And if anything changes about that, I'll let you know." And now I spent a couple of days knowing full well that if I brought that up with Mariellen, it would break her heart. And I really realized I finally had to. And that's when we started to get some help. And
it did break my heart.
it did.
Yeah.
It totally did. And we're in it together. That's what you do. We've been able to support each other. We have a great lesbian community here. As I was saying earlier before this started, that our lesbian friends helped us move. The kids did, but our lesbian friends did as well. Unfortunately, when they got here, they decided where everything should go, and we're still trying to find it. So,
And they're all taller than we are.
by a lot. So we
Well,
have
I
a
just-
good support system.
Yeah. I just want to say too that while I was in the studies, for a long time, I didn't know if I was on the placebo or on the
Right.
actual stuff. But it gave me a real sense of security to have somebody kind of looking after me. And these people would call sometimes, and if anything happened, they would answer our questions. And I'm off of it now because I had a very bad reaction. And it's very hard because I know where I'm headed and I don't want to go there.
Right.
So I want to say, anybody who has memory problems, find a study to be in.
Yeah. The teams are wonderful, and it grounds you. It gives you, and here's the other thing, however, from my perspective, is that they can't tell you anything. They could only tell us that Mariellen was having a buildup because of fluid, because it was a problem. But she had frequent MRIs and PET scans, and they can't tell you the results of those things. But they can be there and they can support you. And the thing about Alzheimer's is they can't tell you how fast something's going to happen, how long it'll take before you start to lose more. Everybody's different. They don't know, and Mariellen is brilliant intellectually and engaged. And, the more engaged you are in learning new things and doing things, and the better chances you have of lasting longer in a place where you can still communicate. And part of the problem is that as soon as you say Alzheimer's, people think she's a doo-doo head. She can't.
And I can see their faces kind of close and their bodies just ever so slightly move back.
Yeah.
And
It
maybe
hurts like hell.
someday I'll be like that,
But she's not.
because they can't stop it now. But yeah, I'm not right now.
And they direct every question to me. So we've been in with, medical people, doctors, et cetera, who start talking to me instead of talking to her, and it's about her. And, you know, I got really quickly adept at saying, she's right there,
Yeah.
talk to her.
Yeah.
And when she can't talk to you anymore, I'll talk for her, but, so that's kind of where we're at. We're sad sometimes, we're afraid. I mean, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
We're afraid.
Yeah.
We're afraid of the future. It doesn't mean we can't do it. And
And it doesn't mean we don't do our best to enjoy our life now.
oh, right,
you know,
because we do
but-
have a great life now.
Yeah.
And
But
we,
yeah, but it does. The fear is just sort of sitting on my shoulder,
yeah,
you know, waiting to, I don't know what,
Pounce.
eat me or
Yeah.
something.
and we, you know, we're both authors and we're both self-published authors. Mariellen has two wonderful young adult novels that are LGBTQ related. And we have two children's books. I have two children's books, one Mariellen illustrated, and then a novel about trauma and recovery. That's for grown-ups. And we are now working on your third and my second novel, but
Right.
we get stuck.
Well, my hope is that once we get settled here, yeah, because there's a lot of empty time, because
Yeah.
we don't have to do any housework, we don't have to cook, we don't have to, you know, scratch our own backs, whatever, you know. So I would like to get into a schedule or a rhythm of at least sitting down and staring at the computer
Yeah.
and put my fingers on the keys and then begin
Right
to
again.
do it again, yeah.
We still haven't sold our original home. So if any of you want to move to Rhode Island and have money to buy a nice house,
Oh, beautiful house.
we got a nice, and some of you know that. There are people there who've seen it.
Yeah.
So we're open to answer questions, whether it's now or later. One of the things we decided in the very beginning was to not be silent about this, to very clearly say
Mhm.
that this is Alzheimer's and this is who we are. And we've done television spots and we're very out here in the senior community. We're the only, there's no diversity here. Everybody's white except this one young man who waits tables at night, goes to college.
Mhm.
Everybody else is white. And only recently did another lesbian move in. But I don't know how out she is.
Yeah, I don't either.
But we just this morning sat down with them and said, here's a couple of things. June's coming up. Here's 4 films that you ought to be showing to everybody. We're willing to do a Q&A after the films. We have a gay flag. You want to fly it? And, you know, we're not silent about much.
No,
Obviously, you can tell that.
and sometimes sometimes I'm like, oh, again. You know, I said to
Have to do
Elda
it
today,
again.
I said, do we have to go in the streets again?
Yeah, we
Do
do.
we?
We do.
But yeah,
So, and for those of you, and I know Mev will take care of this later, but my last name is Dawber, Dawber, and Mary Ellen's is Langworthy, Langworthy. And our books are on Amazon, the other Amazon. Okay, I think we're done.
okay.
We done?
Okay.
Oh,
If you have
Can
questions.
I add this, because Lisa started it?
Sure.
We also participate in the Aging's Pride program. The idea, we do the idea exercises. Actually, they're available on YouTube. Look for idea exercises. And we have a coach who's in California named Kiki, and she's really great. And we talk to her once a month. Actually, Sunday is our last. That research project is ending. We're hoping to find out what the results were, but we've been doing that since early December.
Mhm.
First once a week, then once a month. And I get a lot of coaching and support with ways to handle effectively the issues that arise between it. Like, for example, you know, Mariellen liked to help. If I'm the cook, Mariellen was helping before we didn't have to cook here. But she'd say, what can I do? What can I get? And I'd say, okay, get in the pantry, get this, this, and this. Well, she'd stand in the pantry and look at the pantry. And I realized, I'm giving her too much information. So one thing at a time. And so that sounds so simple, but it's not something I recognize. So I was getting frustrated. So,
Well, because you, in that sense, don't recognize me. And you're very good with me in terms of the things that are hard for me. But I think you still 99% see the old me.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is the thing, folks. It startles me when Mariellen, who has been always so competent at everything that she does, it still startles me when you look lost after we've decided something or
Yeah.
say something. And I have to remember, because in the beginning I was like, what do you mean?
You're like, "Arr."
And so, but I learned very quickly, and with the help of the
did.
IDEA program as well, that's Alzheimer's. Can't do anything about that. That's not Mariellen. That's the Alzheimer's that's right now in control of what's going on. And just that whole time that it takes for people to process the information that comes out of your lips into your brain to process it so that you can act takes a lot longer than it used to. So,
Well, I think we manage really well for now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but it's hard.
Yeah.
For both of us. I know that Mariellen feels that I'm overwhelmed sometimes, and she feels terrible about that. And I feel terrible that you can't remember.
well, and it's not just not remembering. It's like this isn't who I am. There are things ways that I'm the same, but the memory stuff bleeds into so much else. If I'm trying to do a project and I'll get lost in it, or if I'm cooking, or, it's not just that I have this disease and it's contained right here. It spreads into your life, and in the most awful ways, I have to say.
Yeah. So on that downer, thanks, Mev.
But we're doing our
I
best.
would not say it's a downer at all. First of all, I want to thank you and Mariellen and Elda and Mary Ellen and Lisa very much for your openness and your candor. I think that part of the reason this Zoom came about was because there were many lesbians who are a part of OLOC who were wanting this topic, and partly and you all openly discussed your fear and how scared you are and how your worlds have changed. And I know that was one of the concerns of many of the lesbians who were asking for this program. The other thing is, and I think many of us have a lot of experience, even if our own, like walking around like, why am I forgetting this? Is this like is it because I've got too many things going on in my life and I'm juggling too many plates and so I'm forgetful? Is it because I'm getting old? Is it because I am starting to experience dementia or Alzheimer's or so on? And though that's kind of an open question, and until you have somebody else noticing it with you, or you go to your doctor to get a baseline exam of some kind so that you know where you are at all, some of those things are really important to do. I know experiences of my own mother who I experienced as having dementia, and my sisters and I would say to each other, well, she's not who she used to be. She's not the mother we knew. She's not the vibrant woman we know. And then when she died, they put Alzheimer's on her death certificate, which just knocked us all for a loop, because she had never, as far as we know, been actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. It was like the first time we'd heard it. So it was, I don't know if that was because my father kept it from us or what the deal was, but so I think that you're talking about your fear and what scares you is really important. But I also, in terms of like support, and one of the things that you said, Elda, that I thought was really important is talk to Mary Ellen. Like, don't ask me, ask Mary. She's right here. She can answer questions, and there might be a time when maybe you can't, like I would watch my mother and I'd say, that's not true. You haven't cooked in 15 years. What do you mean you cooked something? I knew that was wrong, but also having her, any lesbian or anybody who we know who has Alzheimer's, to still treat them like they're a whole person, because you still are. You're just different than what we remember. And I think that is really an important lesson for us all.
And not to add anything, any indications that you think the person's shameful, or that there's some shame involved in not remembering, because that one cuts deep, if that happens.
Can I say something also?
Sure, go ahead, Lisa.
I think that questions are more important than answers.
Mm.
And I really believe that.
Mm.
And I'm really open to anybody asking me questions. If I don't want to answer, I'll just say I don't want to answer.
Yeah.
When I was a teacher, I would, I was always out to my students, and I always wondered, are they going to ask me about my sex life? I used to think about that, and they never did. If they did, I probably would have said, that's not something I do want to share with you, but ask the question.
Yep.
So speaking of asking the questions, let's turn this over. I'm going to turn it over to Janet. Wave your hands so people can see who you are.